Hey podcast, just before we get you to this episode, I wanted to invite you to join us at pageantlaunch.com. We are starting the world's first dedicated pageant review site, and we want you to join our launch team. All you need to do is put in your email address. It's completely free. We are looking to make the pageant industry safe, transparent, and fair, and we'd love your input on how to do that. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, whack in your email address, and let's get you to this episode. Good evening or good morning, wherever you are. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project, and I have with me a very special guest, Dr. Corinne Devin. Did I say that correctly?
You did. Buongiorno from Italy. How are you?
I am very well. And Corinne is International Ms. That's MS 2020. Corinne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be part of your show. I've been following it for some time, and I love that the guests that you bring on from literally all over the world. So thank you again for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're definitely trying to broaden our audience. Obviously, I'm based in Australia. I've had the good fortune of having a lot of luck in the UK, and now we're looking over the other ocean to the US. Corinne, I don't know really where to start. When I interviewed Sarah Davies, who I know you know, I had this joke with her that every pageant girl says they're not a typical pageant girl, but then Sarah is a Commonwealth silver medalist. She's a weightlifter, so she's definitely very different. You, different again, an orthodontist, and you're in the Navy. I think we'll get to that in a sec, but why don't you start us with how did you get involved in pageantry?
Yes, sir. I got into pageantry as a complete dare at the age of 24. So I was not one of those little tiara and tots that was born and raised on it. I was born and raised in a military family where we moved every 3 to 4 years. And when I was in dental school, one of my classmates said, "Hey, I watched the Miss USA pageant last night, and the second runner-up was a dental student from North Carolina." She's like, "Corinne, you should do this." And before I had to answer, some jerk behind me who was listening into our conversation was like, "Oh no, Corinne could never do that." And I turned around and he's like, "I dare you to do better." I'm like, "Watch me." So 2005 was the first time I entered a pageant. I was showing up in scrubs. I didn't know what an interview meant, like walking on a swimsuit on stage, answering questions like world peace. I was totally a fish out of water, but I got first runner up my first year. I don't know how. I think it's just, I was so naive, but I ended up meeting a bunch of women who really like pushed me and inspired me and really showed me a whole nother world that I'd never been exposed to. And as a result, I continued to do it for a few years. And right after I graduated from dental school, I won Miss Nevada in the United States system and competed. And then I joined the Navy. So definitely a whole another world. But that was my first experience into pageantry.
Can you just walk us through the different pageants that you've entered? Because it sounds like obviously you've been in more than one.
I have. So the United States system is probably the one that I've had the most time in. So I won the Miss division for Nevada and competed. I didn't win. I placed in the top 5. And then I was able to compete in the Miss Nevada international system. I won that state, competed at the international system in Chicago. And I got a taste of being with the big dogs. Like as a girl who really didn't know what's going on, I got thrown into where there's like 100 girls at this system. But through that, I met these wonderful girls from the South who literally took their shirts off their back because I was running out of wardrobe at this pageant, gave me their sparkly tops. I mean, they put one back on themselves, but they encouraged me to really go to maybe a smaller system and just kind of learn the ropes and the lay of the land. So I ended up going to Myrtle Beach. I won my first national title, Miss All-American. And then I deployed with the military. So my entire first year as winning a national title was me in Iraq and tanks and wearing battle gear. So it was definitely not like when I did my farewell, I think I only had 3 or 4 pictures in a crown or banner. So yeah, it was just so real. But after that, I came back from deployment. I competed in a pageant, but in Texas, and won Miss United America. And I got into residency in Texas. And I will tell you, Texas is one of the states in the U.S. who is known for pageants. I think it's right next to God and football. Like that is Texas. And I then decided in residency, I wanted to compete, but I actually used pageant girls as part of my thesis I had to do in my orthodontic residency program. And how that all tied in is I wanted to evaluate facial attractiveness using classic silhouettes. So it would be like a black and white image. So the whole face is blacked out from the side. I did 3-dimensional image. And as a result, I had to enter a pageant to recruit some of these women and won Miss Texas United States all over my second year of residency. So definitely untraditional. And from that, I was very fortunate. I won Miss United States in 2012. And then I left for Japan. So I was in Japan doing all my fundraising and appearances over there, which was really cool because in Asia, pageantry is not as revered as it is in the United States and other parts of the world. And I got invited to compete in Galaxy. So Maria Torres, she invited me, came and compete. I won Miss Galaxy in 2014. And then I just took a break for a few years. I really wanted to give back to all the people that give it to me because I'll be honest, pageantry is a team. You have a tribe or an army of people that are there for you. And I wanted to pay that favor back. And so I did that for a few years, and a Army veteran captain who was in charge of the Miss Earth system, she recruited me and I competed once, got first run up the second year. I won Miss Earth. And then I came to Italy and that was really neat because in Europe, one thing that I really admire they do here is they're very conscientious about the environment. So I found that that title and what I could do here could have a really long lasting impact. So that was something that I did. And from there, after that, one of my friends had reached out to me about International Ms. And the director is Laura Clark. She actually crowned me Miss United States. She's 2011 Miss United States herself. And I was very fortunate that I went to New York and what I will tell you is the older you get, the more busier we become, the more our free time shrinks and shrinks. And so with pageants, I really always ask women, like, what's your why? What's your goal? And with each system I've done, there's always been a purpose. So regardless if I walk away with the crown, were my goals met along the journey to that competition. And with this pageant, it's about entrepreneurship and passion projects. And especially in a time where I'm in a country that was the center of the pandemic for Europe, it's really challenged me. And it's also allowed me to do certain things that I probably wouldn't have been able to do if I was back in the United States. So so that's a nutshell. I hope I didn't run too long, but I just want to give your audience just an idea of the diversity of pageants. And there's truly a lot out there. It's definitely something for everyone, for sure.
There's a lot to delve in for sure. And guys, if you haven't seen one of my interviews before, if you put any questions you have for Corinne in the comments, and I'll make sure to pass them on. As I said, Corinne, there's a lot to delve into. The first one I want to go into is the fact that you are in Italy. And as you identified, Italy was the center of the outbreak, a horrible outbreak. Can you walk us through what it was like being there? I mean, I can't imagine. In Australia, we were fairly sheltered. I was in the UK just as Corona was breaking out, and I was sort of fortunate that I just managed to escape it. Otherwise, it would have been very tricky to come back. But what was it like in Italy?
It was like a bomb went off. I remembered getting off the airplane. I had just spent a girls' weekend with my pageant director and my pageant sister from International Ms. in France. And it was our girls' weekend for our director because she was pregnant at the time. And I came back, and the next day, the prime minister put the entire country, 30 million people, on quarantine. And in Sicily, that's where I'm located. So I'm on the island off the boot. We weren't as heavily hit as they were in the north, but it was unreal. Like you didn't think that it would hit us as hard or heavily as it did. But here in Italy, we have quite a bit of an older population that resides here. I believe Japan is the only other country in the world that has such a large group in a more senior age population. And in the Milan and the Veneto region, so that's Milan, Venice, and northern Italy, that is where most of the economy of the country resides. That's where all the factories are. So to know that there are today entire towns of people that have been completely wiped out from this virus is just astonishing. I felt like I was in a movie, but I just didn't know I was going to wake up. And so all the freedoms that you used to enjoy were gone. So literally going to and from my house because I live outside of the base. I live in Catania, Italy, and going to my base, which is about 20 minutes away, I had to carry identification so that if I was stopped by a police officer, I would not be fined or thrown in jail for not being at home for quarantine. which is just so crazy. So it made you very anxious, very scared just to do a normal thing like driving to work. Even going to the grocery store. We are very lucky we have a grocery store on my base, but off base a few times when I had to go, I would stand in a line for an hour to go inside and buy light bulbs or go buy milk or eggs. And sometimes they would be completely out of it. It's something that you would think would be out of World War I or World War II. And yet it's 2020 and we're fighting an invisible enemy. So I think for me, Italy has become such a home for me. There's people who treat me like they're my parents and family. And to know they don't have a stimulus package that I see people in the US get. They don't get the same kind of help. It's just my heart completely broke. And I definitely, it definitely really hits hard and they're starting to open recover, but I will tell you, there's certain places we're now able to travel within Italy that just haven't opened. They haven't recovered. And even with the social distancing and some of the things they've done, I just don't know if they'll ever recover. It's just really sad to watch. So I hope once people are able to come in Italy, they'll come and support all these farming and businesses and small businesses and these families that have done generation by generation of just goods and services they provide to people. So, yeah.
Italy is you've identified it's got an older population. That's partly because very often they're very healthy. They live for a long time. But also, as I know, Italy is a very family-focused culture. So just the fact that you could have a lot of the older generation and maybe an entire generation is wiped out, that's not something that I ever would have considered here in Australia. In Australia, we're extremely lucky because we're an island and we have very strict quarantine laws. It was easier for us to implement. But a place like Italy, I mean, as you said, it was like a war. And I do think it must be like a war, except we don't know who we're fighting.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And what people think, and I even thought this too, is, when this first happened in China, you thought, oh, that's in China, it's not going to affect us. And that's what my friends thought in America who were watching what's happening in Italy until it did. And, we're human. It's easier to accept this. But what was really fascinating is within that first week we were in quarantine because the prime minister was starting to quarantine the northern regions first. And again, I'm on an island. I mean, I'm very close. I can see mainland Italy from certain parts of Sicily. There's about 30,000 people that fled northern Italy, came down to Sicily. As soon as they did it, we had a spike of 500 cases like that. Yeah. And that is really what made that reality sink in, like, oh, no, this is for real. This is not just something you watch on a movie and you turn off and it's all better. No, it's here. And I think even today, right now, I work in a hospital, and in the hospital, I have to wear what's called an N95 mask. And I will tell you, my hats go off to so many providers that have to wear that 24/7. I only have to wear it for about 6 to 8 hours. I have marks left on my face. Yeah, no, they're not comfortable.
My parents are doctors, so I wore one when I flew over to the UK and back. So that's maybe a 16-hour, 20-hour, 24-hour flight. And they dig into your face, something horrible.
Your nose runs. You can they cut down your ability to breathe by about 15%. So you feel like you're constantly trying to catch your breath. And that's just me talking to my patients. So I definitely look like the lunch lady now when I see my patients. My friend that's a dermatologist back in California, she sent me a picture of hers and it looks like a spacesuit. My face can definitely feel it. I have dry patches and all sorts of stuff. And again, I'm only wearing it 6 to 8 hours. I look at these nurses and doctors like your parents who are wearing it for 10, 12, 16 hours day in, day out. Oh my gosh. Like it's incredible, but it's what we have to do to protect ourselves because that's how we can protect ourselves and still serve, people that need our help.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone on the front line, obviously, huge respect to all of them. They're very brave, and they have to do it. But it's something that I've said ongoing that I wished 2020 was going to be different, or I felt 2020 was going to be different. And I think sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, because you have to be specific. Let's put it that way, because 2020 certainly has been different, but not in the way that I expected. Now we have a couple of comments here from, it says Ms. Galaxy. This is Danielle Latimer. I don't know if you know Danielle. Danielle is one of my co-hosts on the podcast, and she speaks several languages. I don't know how good Danielle's Italian is, but she's put buongiorno, Corinne, and then she's also asked this question: what is your favorite pageant memory?
Oh my goodness. I would have to say my favorite pageant memory. I have to pick just one, but well, I would definitely say one of them was surprising. She's from Galaxy, so I'm going to probably go with the Galaxy one. Is I surprising my director, the executive director of Galaxy, Maria Torres. So I was stationed in Japan. I didn't know if I'd be able to come back and crown the successor. I missed the Queen's Retreat. I was taking my board. So I'm a board certified orthodontist, and it happened to be going on the same time as Galaxy Pageant. Well, I was able to get it done, get to the pageant, surprise me, and literally run behind her and pick her up and throw her in the air over my shoulder. And she was screaming because she couldn't believe that I made it there. And I think someone caught it on camera. I'm not sure who it was, but she was just so happy. I picked her up and I just like hoisted over and like rode around, and I was just screaming, "Hi, Maria. Hi. Oh my gosh. I'm here." So that was definitely, one of my favorite memories. And I would say another one at Galaxy was my battle buddy. So in the military, we have a thing called battle buddies. I'm not sure if you've heard of that term before.
No.
Okay. So a battle buddy in the military is like someone who has your back, someone you can go to, listen to. They can talk to you, be your confidant. And when I was on deployment, being on a base of 25,000 soldiers and only 20 female officers, you need a battle buddy, someone you can talk to and relate to. And
25,000. So
yeah.
more less than 1 in 1,000. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I found the doctor down the hallway where we were similar and frank. We bonded a lot. And so he surprised me at Galaxy Pageant. And I remember him walking into the room the night before I competed with all the makeup, all like the light bulbs, like everything was rearranged in the room. And he's like, "You look like you're ready to go to war, Corinne. What's going on? Like, this looks intense." And it was just so funny because he knew me from a much different scenario, being on deployment where we could wear very little makeup, working out. And to see this was just, it was a lot of fun that I could introduce him to another world when I went from combat boots to stilettos. So
I guess it is war, just war of a different kind, and war fought with different weapons. Hopefully. Danielle has also she's been learning Italian in lockdown, and she loves traveling. So she said she'll get out there as soon as she can. And she's asked, how's your Italian, Corinne?
It's cosi, which is so. I would tell people that if you lose it, if you don't use it, you lose it. And one of the tricky things that I have here is in Sicily, they speak Sicilian, which is very different than Italian. So even my Gargay, I will say to him, "Oh, sono andata Veneto per scorsa fine di settimana." So I went to the Veneto region this past weekend. He'll be like, "No capito," means I don't understand, even if I said it in perfect Italian. So in Italy, there is about 10 different dialects depending on the region, and some are very different than Italian and some are closer. So I definitely would say one thing that helped me in Japan versus Italy is that more of my patients spoke Japanese. So I had a chance to practice with them more, where here I probably only have 2 or 3 that only speak it. But it's a beautiful language. My hat goes off to you. Gosh, several languages. You're my hero. I think I need to be listening to you on how that you learned all this. That's incredible. Absolutely, absolutely incredible.
I don't quite know how far Danielle's gotten. I think we might have given her more credit than she deserved, but that's fine because she's my co-host, and she does a lot of selfless work. Now, you got an interesting question here from Chelsea. She's asked, how will you attempt to change pageants or advocate change within pageant systems? So I guess we should preface this question with, are there any changes that you'd like to see in pageantry? And if so, how would you go about advocating for them?
So one thing that I will have to say, and this is just a shameless plug for my system, International Miss, is I think pageants should really look at someone who does social media as part of their competition. So in International Miss, social media actually makes up 10% of our score, and it's done before the pageant. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be a complete whiz on the computer. Trust me, like I am still learning every single day how to navigate social media. But what it shows is that you're willing to put the time, the energy, and the effort into the system and really kind of make those deposits like into a bank before you actually maybe get crowned. And so to me, I think it's another way to show the judges different sides of you. It's another way for the people who are competing to get to know you, but also it's a good way to advertise yourself rather than just simply an ad page. So that's one thing I would love to see change in pageant systems, because I think this is the world that we live in, especially right now in a pandemic where virtual is all that we have. Social media is increasing by an astronomical new level. So that's definitely one thing. Another thing that I would love to see is more pageants for women above the ages of 26. So International Miss is open from age 26 above. But when I got into pageantry at 24, there wasn't a whole lot of systems I could do at first. I mean, Miss America was out. Miss USA, I could only do it for maybe a couple of years. And I think when there's more systems out there for women who decide to do pageantry later in their life, when they're not bogged down with school or they're not bogged down, maybe with the family, and they have that time, it'd be nice to have a place where they can do it.
Can you tell us more about, first off, the social media aspect? I completely agree, because I think it's a lot, you get a more holistic view of a person if you can look at their social media, let's say over 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, than you possibly can in an interview that might go 3 minutes, or even if the pageant goes 3 or 4 days. There are people who can fake it, let's say, for want of a better phrase, for those 3 or 4 days. But then after, let's say they don't win, they become someone completely different, who, let's say, doesn't care about the advocacy of the pageantry. So I love the idea that someone's actually looking at the social media and that it's built into the scoring system. And aside from that, you mentioned entrepreneurship with International Miss. So can you tell us more about the system overall?
Absolutely. So the system was founded by my director, Laura Clark, and she created it because she really wanted to have a system that was her own, but also one that celebrated entrepreneurship because of, just her own career of she was a professional cheerleader, then she was in marketing, then she was working for the United States system and a few other pageants before she started her own. And she also is the franchise owner for the Earth system that goes into Miss Earth for United States. And
right.
with the great thing about this system is, so it's open to women of all marital statuses, all races, all above the age of 26 and higher. And there is several areas that you compete. So before you actually get to the pageant, there's a few areas that you'll compete in. One is 10% of social media. Then you have 10% video. So instead of an actual bio, we actually have to create a video. Now, you could do something simple like putting your phone up and record. You can make a collage. It really gives you a chance to try your creativity. And at first, it seemed really overwhelming to me. But because of that, I got to meet and network with some people in Italy that I wouldn't have met before otherwise. And when I told them what it was for, they pretty much offered their services for free, especially if they knew that they could be part of my project. So again, I'm supporting other entrepreneurs for a pageant that's about entrepreneurship. If you, at the pageant itself, you have an interview, which is worth 40% with judges. It's a panel. Then you have the resort runway, which is an all white outfit, but you get a chance to do your creativity. You have a resort wear, which is swimsuit, evening gown, and then on-stage question for the top 10. Now, all those other categories are only worth 10%. So your interview is worth the most because they want to hear, what will you do if you win? So there is actually a grant. So if you win the pageant, you actually get a grant package for the International Ms. and also for the International Ms. USA title. So for me, I chose to use the grant money to fund a TED Talk coach in order for me to be on TED Talks in the near future. So keep your eyes out for that. So as what I did during quarantine is I worked with a TED Talk coach to really fine tune my public speaking skills and also put together a speech and a story that I will pitch to TEDx once this is all over and we are a little bit more back to normal. So
are you able to disclose, and please don't if you're not able to, but are you able to disclose the subject of your TED Talk?
It's a motivational TED Talk. It's something about just, finding ways to to change the game and really things that I've kind of done in my life, and then things that I will give that the audience can use to do in their own life, and a challenge at the end. So that's all I'm going to say. You'll have to wait till it goes live.
That's amazing. I don't think I've interviewed anyone who's been on a TED Talk yet. It has come up several times, but I don't think anyone's made it just yet. Chelsea here has also, who asked a question before, she said, yes, more for women above 26. I feel that as a 28-year-old. Corinne, can you tell us, we've obviously mentioned a lot about being in the Navy. For a lot of people, I don't think they could think of anything that's more polar opposites, pageantry and Navy. It was similar with Sarah, pageantry and weightlifting. But how did you get involved in the Navy? Was your family a Navy family, a military family, or was it, I'm assuming it wasn't on a dare as well, similar to your pageant career?
Yeah, that's definitely fair. No, I was actually born and raised in a military family. So my family actually goes back to the Revolutionary War in the U.S., so 7 generations strong in various forms. My cousin and I are the only females that have ever served active duty in the military. My mom was a civil servant, so she was a government contractor. But yeah, if you told my 8-year-old self that in 20 years I would be doing the exact same job as my father, going to the exact same part of the world deployed, I would be like, no, you're crazy. Well, guess what? I drank the Kool-Aid fully. Drank it, sell it, own it, all the above. So when I was in dentals, before I graduated from college, I realized I want to go to dental school. Well, dental school is incredibly expensive. I don't know the cost of dental schools in Australia, but in the US, you're looking anywhere between.
I'll tell you now that in Australia, basically it's free education. So the government pays for most of it and we pay a small amount. If you're an international student, you pay a lot more, but the government basically funds it and you don't end up with a massive debt. So maybe dentistry might be 10 or 20,000, probably 10,000, 16,000 a year. So not that cheap with us. I would say most of my colleagues, when I graduated in dental school in 2007, was anywhere between 300,000 to 500,000. Oh, God.
There's people who graduate now close to $1 million. Yeah, it's expensive.
And that's a loan, right? And you need to pay that back.
Oh yeah, you cannot claim bankruptcy on student loan debt. Student loan debt is one of those tricky things that you own that to the grave, and if not, your family will have to pay that for you. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you really hope that you put that college degree to use.
Yes, no, definitely. And so for me, the U.S. military offers a scholarship, both from the Army, Air Force, and Navy to pay for dental schools. So for me, it was such a good deal. So I applied. I was very fortunate. Of my 4 years, they paid for 3. So when I graduated, I only had about $80,000 in debt. And for my first year in just my boards. And I mean, that's me living in a house with roommates, driving an old car, really trying to be mindful of what I spend. And I came in the Navy. So May 12th, 2007, I raised my right hand, swore in my swimsuit, leaving a pool party because I had to do it again. The first time I guess didn't go through. And so I became in the Navy. And so, everything I share on all these interviews, I just tell you honest, these are my views, Corinne's views, not the Department of Defense views on everything. But you're right. Pageantry and Navy, how can they be so different and yet so similar? I'm going to tell you how. So in pageantry, we all love serving others. We love being part of the community. Well, guess what? That's what we do in the military. We go on humanitarian missions. We go to parts of the world where people may not have certain health care, or maybe they don't have the supplies to build proper homes or clean water. That's something that we do in the military. Another thing we believe in is tradition. In pageants, we have so many traditions. At the Galaxy, they have the pajama party. At International Ms., we have the night out in town. We have all these fun traditions. We bring girls little gifts from our country or our state. So those traditions also exist in the military too. They're called, someone who's called a sponsor, someone to help you find settled. I experienced this in Texas because where I went to residency, there was no water, there was no Navy. Pageant girls were the ones who picked me up off the airplane, let me stay with them and help me find a place to live. And guess who also does that? The United States military. So there is so much they share. And then also in pageants, majority of our pageants have some sort of fitness or swimsuit wear, or maybe we're just trying to fit into our evening gown. Guess what? I am in better shape for pageants than I am for any military physical fitness test, which I have to do twice a year. Because all the guys give me a hard time, but let's be honest, you guys, you are not getting on a stage in TV in front of crowds of people. You're running laps around a treadmill, and we're just trying to beat each other or the clock. So there's definitely a lot that's common. The things that I would tell you that is very different from pageantry is I have to wear a uniform. And I'm not allowed to wear my banner or crown in uniform. So you won't ever see a picture of me wearing it over. And it probably it would look kind of ridiculous. But because of the military, there's so many things I'm able to do, and I can bring pageantry along with it. So when I'm not wearing my uniform, you'll see me wearing my banner and crown, working with the public affairs officer. And because of that, there's definitely some things in Italy that I got to do that because of pageantry and because of military, I wouldn't have got to do otherwise. So definitely some childhood dreams have come true over here. So that's been really amazing.
Can you give us an idea what a day in the life is like in the Navy, or is every day completely different?
No, I can definitely do that. So right now I've been operating on a blue and gold day where some days I go into work and some days I work from home. But starting Friday, we'll be somewhat back to normal, except wearing masks all the time when we're at work. I will wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and do a workout before work, 4:30. Yes, I know, before the sun comes up. This started when I was in residency studying for boards, and then I moved to Japan, which is the land of the rising sun. I'm not sure if that's the case in Australia. Is that true? Do you guys does the sun come out like
I have been waking up at 4:30 to do interviews, but I think I'm the only one. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it just became a habit in Japan. And part of the reason is, the people bless their heart, they're so sweet, but they're so tiny and they get cold easily. And so the gyms that I would go to, they didn't air condition. So it was like a survival mode to get to the gym and at least be cooler. So when I leave drenched in sweat, it wasn't as hard as if I went there later in the day. And then I just kind of kept that habit and kept it going. And same thing here in Italy. They drive very different than what I'm used to in the United States. As my father says, they have no sense of fear and they're very close to God with how they drive. So I don't hit any traffic early in the morning.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Yes. And I get to work early in the morning, and then I've done something good that's good for me before my day even starts. So it's a great way to start your day if you can do it.
Can you tell us about your hometown? This is one thing, because I haven't interviewed many American pageant contestants. I've interviewed a couple, and I'm going to be interviewing more in the future. But can you tell us more about where you were born, where you came from, and what it's like?
Sure. So I actually was born in the Philippines on a naval base, and I don't really have a hometown per se. So I'm probably not going to be like some of your other contestants because we moved every 3 or 4 years. So from the Philippines, we were in Japan briefly, California, Hawaii, back to California, Nevada, California. And then I was in Iraq, California, Texas, Japan, California, now Italy. And then I'm going to go to Japan next. So I think California is maybe the one place I've lived the most. But you know what I'll tell you is that any place I live, I just learn to blossom wherever I'm planted. And just really, if I'm overseas, I want to learn the language because I find that's the best way to learn the culture. And I just look at life as a glass full, because you never know when you'll leave, and there'll be certain things that you'll take for granted that you're going to miss as soon as you're
gone. Absolutely. So I'm just going to put these comments, catch up with the comments. So Danielle has put, you a very eloquent and empowering, Corinne.
Oh, thank you.
Your TED Talk. And Chelsea has also said that's so exciting. Corinne, I just want to, I don't normally talk politics, and I won't ask you to go into any details about it, but obviously there's a lot going on in America and the UK and even in Australia with the Black Lives Matter movement. What's been your read of the situation and what you think is going on? Because there's been a lot of people very upset about it. A lot of things have been said. Just what's your general overview of the situation and maybe what you think we need to do about it as a society?
I commend all the people who are out there doing things peacefully because, obviously what happened to George Floyd was just appalling to see someone just be murdered in front of your own eyes. I think that really struck a chord with a lot of people because, I was never raised that way. I guess me being a military family and living so many places, I was exposed to so many different types of people from all walks of life that I never looked at people by the color of their skin. I just looked at someone and be like, oh, that's Ryan. That's Jessica. That's Sarah. I didn't ever look at people that way. For me, what's been really resonating is definitely watching some movies that people have recommended to me where you see things. And I think as I've gotten older, more confident who I am, I've realized looking back at my past, there was probably situations where I could have spoke up for someone and I didn't. Yeah. And looking at this, I think it's really been empowering to be like, you know what, there's going to be a time or a place where I'm going to need to be a voice for someone, regardless of their age, regardless of the color of their skin. And this is a great reminder that I may be that bystander that can intervene and save that person, whether it's save them from a bad situation or just bad people. And that's something that we get trained for in the Navy yearly. And it can be as simple as you're out with your friends and you see someone who's just not a good person or not in the right state of mind, and you intervening, even if it means you're being rude to someone to save your friend or save an innocent person, guess what? I think if you can defuse a situation before it blows up, there's something to be said by that. And right now in the media, I saw a security guard who was a former Marine who was in Seattle, and he actually saved several crew. And what he did is these protesters had looted a car, taken out guns, and there was a police car, and were starting to shoot it. And he ran right into them, grabbed the weapon, emptied the ammunition, and returned the guns to the police station. So again, he did things, he diffused things before it could have got out of hand. Because at the end of the day, what is the goal here? Is the goal to steal merchandise from a store? Is the goal for us to have equality? And that's something that if we, John F. Kennedy said a revolution every now and then is a good thing to kind of disrupt things and remind people like, hey, there's some flaws in our system that needs to be corrected. Yeah. And I think if we're able to kind of do that and speak up for some of these people who've had injustices, great. But at the end of the day, I always tell people I'm a minority in the military. There's only 18% of the military is made up of females. And sometimes that means I have to work harder to get where I'm at. Sometimes that means I got to take a job that no one wants and do it really well. But then I'm being judged on merit. And to me, to be judged on merit on how well I do something, regardless of my age, if I'm female, if, what my nationality, to me speaks volume, because that to me speaks more about a person and not about anything else. And that's to me, what I think people should really focus on it at the end of the day.
What role do you think pageant girls can have in the current situation? I know a lot of them have sort of held back because they wanted to, and a lot of credit to them, they've wanted to educate themselves, they've said, about what's going on in terms of all the history that's gone into this. Corinne, can you still hear me?
I can. You just cut out just for me a moment. Just you were saying how some of these girls have held back and because they want to learn the history.
They didn't want to speak out of place, basically. So a lot of them have wanted to say something but haven't really known what to say for fear of saying the wrong thing. Do you think that there is something that they can do in a situation like this that can really make a difference?
I would say one of the best things about pageantry is that we get to meet people from all walks of life in pageantry. And I've always taken the mindset that if I don't know something, I ask for help. If I were them, and I've done this, I've gone out and asked my friends, hey, what can I do? Is there something I haven't thought of? Because when you can be very introspective and kind of let your guard down, I think you can learn a lot. So for me, I also became very quiet as well. And I reached out to several friends who came from homes where, they had interracial couples of different races, or, and I asked them, I said, is there something that I haven't done that I failed as a friendship, or is there something more I should do? And, at the end of the day, I think people just want to know that you're being genuine, you're being kind and being thoughtful, but also there's nothing wrong saying, hey, listen, I dropped the ball on this, but I want to pick it up. What can I do? And kind of give it, and then just being quiet and letting people kind of just let them know, simple as that. For me, that's tough. It's a tough situation. I don't think there's one right way or one way to do it. But I have to commend the platforms I've seen. My director was on a platform with other women from different nationalities. And it was really interesting to watch how each of them have said what they've done and how they are really to increase the diversity in pageantry. And I think that's a great first step in a positive direction.
Corinne, you've obviously done a lot in your short life. If you were to give a piece of advice, this is quite a cliche question, but I'll still be fascinated to hear your answer. In terms of one piece of advice, or two or three pieces of advice you'd give maybe either to your younger self or to a younger girl watching this, whether they're in pageantry or not, what have been some of the key lessons that you feel have really shaped your life?
I would definitely say that if, I always wanted to feel like I wanted to belong. I always wanted to feel accepted. And maybe that was growing up in the military and moving around so much and having to start over every couple years. My older self has learned to not care so much about what people think, but care about what the people matter think. So if I'm doing something from the goodness of my heart, from a place that I know is true and strong and also resonates with who I am, focus on that. Because at the end of the day, those people that you care about may not be really the best people in your life. And the older I get, maybe I just have less time to care about what everyone thinks and just want to focus my energy on it. So that's something I would tell you. And also know your why. it's really hard. When I was in college, I would be studying all hours of the night. I was studying my birthday. I was doing things where I felt like I was missing out on life, but it was ultimately to be a dentist and now to be an orthodontist. And I realized those sacrifices, those were necessary, because let's be honest, if you have big goals and big dreams, you have to make those sacrifices along the way. And when you do, there's going to be people around you be like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. I know how I did it. I didn't go out on Friday night. I stayed in. I woke up early. I stayed up late. Yeah. It's, work smart, try hard, never quit. I mean, that's what you got to do. And when you fall down and you learn how to pick yourself back up, that's where you find success. That is where you truly can celebrate, your failure to something that's worthwhile.
Well said. I hope that becomes part of your TED Talk. Corinne, I don't know if you have any spare time. Most pageant girls do not. But in said spare time, what do you do to relax, hobbies-wise or just enjoyment-wise? Or do you not have any spare time at all?
No, I do. Well, first off, I love doing podcasts. To me, it's such a great way to network and meet people from all over. But I am a big fan of working out and hiking and exploring. Definitely for some time here, I was not able to leave Sicily. So just to go to different parts of the island and just be in awe, even if it's of Mother Nature. And last weekend, I saw probably the clearest water I've ever seen. I never knew water could look the shades of blue that I saw. That was really, really neat and nice way just to kind of unplug. But definitely for travel, I like to go on adventurous trips. So in February, for Valentine's Day and my birthday with two of my other friends, whose also birthday was in February, we flew up to Finland, and we were in weather where it was negative 20 Celsius. There was snowflakes on our eyelashes because it was so cool. And we were dog sledding, and it was just epic. And to me, life is meant to be lived. And so those are some of the things I love to do. Yes, I'm like every girl who loves to get dressed up and loves to shop. But, one thing that I've learned in Europe, and I'd be curious to hear your take if this is true in Australia, is the Europeans, they're all about packing tiny suitcases that you can fit on your Ryanair flights and then just go. And to me, they don't consume having all this stuff with them, but just being part of the experience. And that is something I truly have enjoyed in my spare time here.
Oh, well, that's a Valentine's Day with a difference, that's for sure. I can tell you that from Australia, have always been fascinated by Americans' luggage allowance. Luggage allowance is what we get, and basically what you guys take on as a carry-on would be our check-in. So I don't know if that answers your question, but you definitely seem to pack a lot more in America. And sometimes when I have Americans come over there, they get quite a rude shock. And it's like, you can only take one suitcase? It's like, yep. We can only take two when we go to America. So I don't know if that answers the question. Corinne, what plans do you have for the future, like long-term? We're talking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Well, I hope to make captain, which is or colonel in the United States military. I made commander my father's rank in 11 years. And so that was really exciting when I got selected for that. And after my time with the military is done, I would love to be a motivational speaker, as well as just working a few days in private practice, publish a book. So if any of your people out there have any great leads, where to start, where to go, that's another project that I'm working on right now. I've started writing a book. And gosh, so much. I guess to me, hopefully come to your country. I've never been to Australia. I would love to see the land down under and maybe hold a koala bear on my birthday. That would be just so cool, because that would be summertime in Australia to come in February.
There's only one place where you can do that. So I do know where you can do that. You're not allowed to really do it anywhere else in the country anymore because they're endangered, but also they have various diseases. So there's only one place left that you can actually hold a koala.
Okay, I will have to get that from you for sure. But yeah, those are just a few things I have, and still be involved in pageantry. I've been blessed by having so much success, but I didn't have that alone. I didn't have it without a ton of coaches, trainers, mentors, people who really have pushed me to be better. And as soon as I think I've given enough, they ask for more. And in turn, I really want to do that and provide that to other women and men that are doing pageants. So if there's any way that I can, pay it forward, I'd love to do that as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Now, Corinne, we always wrap up with the same 10 questions, but just before we get to the final 10, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to or just say thanks for supporting you along your journey, whether it's in the Navy, in pageantry, just in life in general?
There is so many, so I will keep it under a minute. So I'd love to thank my director, Laura Clark, for the International Miss System, my sister queen, International Miss USA 2020, Mikkel Reed Carroll. I would love to thank all the girls that I met in the UK, Sarah. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the one right now that gave us a ride from the airport. Charlotte Kemi.
Photography session with Charlotte. I forgot to ask you about that.
Yeah, that was incredible, by the way. The UK Glam Squad. I'm so glad we did that in January, which feels like 100 years ago now. I would have to thank all my mentors in the Navy. So Captain Rebecca Lee, she's been an amazing mentor to me. I have looked up to her. T. Loeffler, who decided I should be an orthodontist, Captain Dave Harmatz, Captain Curtis. They showed me the dark side of orthodontics. I never dreamed a girl who never had braces would become the quarterback of a Navy football team, but in the dental corps. My parents, my family, and honestly, in the pageant world, Chelsea Carter, Sandra Mata, Grant Photo, Benzio, Bianca Corrales. Gosh, I could go on and on, but I always try to, if any of your followers or your audience comes to my Instagram, I always am really good about social media because I can look everything up and make sure I thank everyone. And also, I would say someone right now is Veronica Oliveras. She is someone who is a former pageant queen herself. We met with United America, and 15 years later, we reconnected in Sicily by her best friend living down the street, married to a Navy guy. And she has just really elevated everything for me in social media, as well as Patrick Stephens, who helped put together my video, and Michael Walker. So as you are gathering, there is a huge navy of pageantry people that have helped me. And again, I'm more than happy to speak to any girls offline. There's a few women in the military that I've seen have great success in pageantry. Captain Angie May, she has done a phenomenal, and I definitely say, it's like any industry. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. There's lessons I've learned on the long way. Just like any industry, there's some good apples. There's some not so good apples. So
life in general.
Yes, life in general. So
how did you find out? Because I needed to ask this, and I'm glad you reminded me. How did you find out about Charlotte Clemmy, the photographer? Because Ireland is not that close to Italy. It's certainly not that close to the United States. So how did you find out about a photographer in Ireland?
Well, I saw her do the galaxy photos, and I was blown away by how she did them. And also, I found out that she had competed in Galaxy System a few years previous herself. And when both my sister queen and I won our pageant, our director shared with us that she was also moving to Switzerland. So even though we're all Americans, we're in Italy, Croatia, and Switzerland. And we were all talking how we don't really have the same network in Europe like we do in the United States. And I remember seeing Charlotte, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is who we actually need to take our photos to. And true story, Charlotte thought I was not the person I was when I first reached out to her, because she's like, why is someone from the US messaging me? Until I think I messaged her a few times. And, and I'm sure she gets hundreds of questions, who knows, especially on social media, sometimes people aren't who they say they are. And I respect that. But I was so grateful. I loved working with her, loved all her photos. She brought out a side of me that I never knew existed. And I pray that one day that I can work with her again. And maybe with Prince Charming, she can shoot my future wedding if I get married here in Europe. So we'll see. It was just, I truly felt like a queen that day with her.
Well, Charlotte is one of the central figures in UK pageantry. Everyone in the UK knows who Charlotte is. And I remember, because we've had her on a couple of times on our podcast, and I remember her saying that she was a little bit worried because she had someone coming all the way from America to have a photo shoot done. So she was feeling the pressure. She said, didn't want to screw it up. Someone's coming all the way from America to have a photo shoot. Better not screw this one up. But I just needed to know that, because she's a very well-loved and very well-respected figure over here in UK pageantry, but I'm not in the UK, so over in UK pageantry. I get very confused what time zone I'm in at times. All right. Okay, so final 10 questions. I feel like I should say these are not rapid fire. You don't need to answer these quickly, although some people feel the need to do that. So question 1 is, what is your favorite word?
I would say relentless.
That certainly sounds applicable to your life. Question 2, what is your least favorite word?
Lazy.
You've got a certain facial expression when you
yeah.
say that word. Question 3. In life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
I would just say life in general. I always tell people that I'm high on caffeine and patriotism every day. So that's definitely what gets me excited. Serving my country and helping others have a beautiful smile.
How much caffeine are we talking about?
I only drink tea. I'm not a big coffee drinker because it stains your teeth pretty bad. So I'm definitely a fan of a good cup of tea.
Sounds good. Any particular type of tea? I mean, all the people from the UK will have their different brands of tea and types of tea.
Oh gosh, I'm afraid to say because of your UK audience. I mean, English is known for their tea, but honestly, exactly. I would say in Japan, I got used to drinking a lot of green tea and peppermint tea.
Ah, okay. Well, green tea is very, very healthy for you. So has lots of anti-aging properties. Question 4, what turns you off?
I guess what would turn me off is negativity. I don't respond well when someone is negative about everything and anything. And don't get me wrong, we all have our good days and our bad days. Like, trust me, I have rough days myself, or even rough weeks. But it's kind of pulling through that, and what you learn from that, I think, is more speak volumes of who you are and how you're able to overcome it.
Question 5, what sound or noise do you love?
I would have to say right now, I love the church bells that I hear that go off outside of my back balcony around 8:30. It's nice because I didn't hear them for a long time during quarantine.
Oh, of course. And question 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
Screaming children on an airplane. When you're trying to sleep and you can't mute them, you can't turn them down.
What's the longest flight you've ever been on?
16 hours.
Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Flying over to Australia will be about 24 hours, so just be ready for that.
Okay.
We're far away from everyone. Question 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Mind reading. I would love to read minds because very often I read my patient's body language in the chair. But sometimes if people are thinking something else, I believe that I would be able to better serve them, maybe put some of their worries or concerns aside, and also truly answer their questions. Because very often, sometimes we think we're answering someone's question, but maybe we're not communicating that properly. Because at the end of the day, we just don't all want to be heard, but we want to be understood.
Of course. Question 8. What job or occupation other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Attempt, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gosh, I would love to. So before I became a dentist, I was looking to go into public relations. And so I would love to be doing the PR, whether it's for some congressman or big company like Apple. I think it would be so cool to rub elbows with all these people. And I look at some people that are big in the press that do that job, like Ivanka Trump. You know, yes, she's not the president, but gosh, to be a daughter and to be in that role, I think it would be really neat to kind of see, you know, how you juggle that with your personal and your professional life that overlap quite a bit.
And what job or occupation other than your own would you definitely not like to attempt?
Farmer. I can't grow anything to save my life. I kill it. I just kill it. So thank you for all the farmers out there for feeding me. I would die without you of hunger.
It's good to know that there's one thing that you're not good at least.
Yeah. Yes, I kill the plants.
Well, Italy is famous for growing all their own produce, so I hope you stay away from all their, lovely tomatoes and all the other stuff, olives and.
They do. I got to tell you, if you ever come to this country and you have a gluten allergy or lactose, all my friends who've come here, they can eat anything, everything, and they have no issues. So I do not grow it, but I definitely shop the farmer's market. They don't have organic because everything is organic. The tomatoes are different shapes and sizes, and it's not like the U.S. where the same tomato can last in your refrigerator for weeks on end. After a few days, it starts going bad. So yeah, something to be said by that. So.
They got to taste different as well. Tomatoes, when they're grown properly, they just have a taste that a store-bought tomato does not have.
I don't even put dressing on my salad anymore. I didn't even know lettuce could taste the way it does, like it does here. I will sincerely miss the food when I leave here. I have been spoiled rotten by all the food here. Spoiled rotten, completely.
I'm getting hungry now. Let's move to the final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did good. You did well, like that I made him proud. because at the end of the day, God is the reason I'm here. God is the reason I'm safe. He answered all the prayers of keeping my family safe on deployment. He kept me safe when I was in Iraq and walking in uncharted minefields, not knowing if the next step would be my last. So I'd love to hear him tell me that. And then my question would be like, what can I do next? And go from there.
Sounds good to me. Well, Corinne, thank you so much for your time.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I truly hope that once I relocate to the other part of the world that I'm able to come to Australia and meet you in person once this is all said and done. You're in one place. I've been to 50 countries, but I have not been to Australia. So you are on my list, my friend. So I look for one day when I can come and meet your tribe, your empire that you're building over there.
Well, my empire is mainly in the UK, so I might need to meet you halfway. I will definitely set you up with the koala because, as I said, I had a friend staying over here from the UK earlier this year, and she really wanted to hold a koala, and it turns out there's only one place that you can actually do that, and it's not in Sydney. So I will definitely hook you up with that if and when you make the journey down under. But thank you so much for your time, and thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you again very soon.
What's up, guys? It's Adrian again. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to head over to pageantlaunch.com, join our launch team for our review site. It's super important to all of us to make sure that the industry is safe, transparent, and fair. So head over to pageantlaunch.com, write in your email address, and we'll speak to you next time.